radical self-acceptance that you are human. And that is beautiful. And because you are human, guess what? You're not perfect. Dang it. But that's okay. None of us are. And so we're in this together.
We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Welcome to Empowering Vibez, the show that supports you to create an extraordinary life. My name is Hannah Wiz, and my guest today is the kind-hearted, giving soul, Ashton August.
Ashton is the founder and content director of YogaApproved.com, a leading yoga and wellness digital magazine from the United States. She's also the founder of Yoga Approved Classes, an online yoga and fitness platform with hundreds of premium, on-demand, and live yoga, fitness, and meditation classes, expertly curated to help you reach your goals. Plus, every class you take helps plant a food-producing tree for farming communities in West Africa. Ashton is an entrepreneur on a mission to inspire, empower, educate, and cultivate community through her work as a motivational speaker and author, as well as a distinguished yoga instructor and business owner. In this episode, Ashton will share with you how to deal with self-doubt, the importance of self-care, and how you can create healthy boundaries.
I am so excited and deeply grateful to have such an amazing, kind-hearted soul on the show today. Ashton August, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Empowering Vibez.
Thank you so much for having me, Hannah. I'm so excited to be here. I love the podcast that you have created, and you know that I've been a friend, an ally, and follower of Yoga Junkies since the very beginning. So it's really exciting to be with you in this latest dimension of your company.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Before we dive in, I would like to get the audience to get to know you a little bit better. So do you want to share with us how you grew up and what maybe impacted your childhood or your teenage years a lot?
Yes, absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to connect with you all. I am coming at you from Arizona in the U.S., and I was born in Colorado, which is a beautiful, beautiful mountainous state. So I grew up in the forests of the Rocky Mountains, and I grew up a lot with my grandparents who were part German, part Italian. So I grew up really kind of appreciating those aspects of my culture and my ancestry. And it's been a really fun journey having lived in such a beautiful place and then moving to the desert where I live now. And that's a bit about where I am from. And I am also the founder of YogaApproved.com and YA Classes, which is an online yoga and wellness magazine. And that's how you and I, Hannah, were first connected all these years ago. So it's really exciting to be on the show with you.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to talk about the start of Yoga Approved and how you got into that later on. First, I would like to talk a little bit about mindset, since I know that you're a big, big advocate of the power of mindset. So how did you get in touch with personal development?
Yeah, so I love that you are now getting into personal development as well, and it's very important to me because if you go to my website, the big first thing you'll read is mindset is everything, and that's such an important aspect of me and my life and my work because I have lived with high functioning anxiety my entire life and was really, really plagued by my anxiety when I was younger before I had the tools and the self-awareness to cope with it in a healthy way. And so going through that all those years and seeing, my family also deal with similar mental health related issues, it really, got me thinking like there's got to be something better out there. There's got to be a different approach. And as Hannah and I were just chatting about right off camera before we got started, I came to yoga through my personal development journey. So I kind of found existentialism first. I was so enthralled with Jean-Paul Sartre and Friedrich Nietzsche. And from there, that kind of led me into Eckhart Tolle and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Alanya Van Zant, all of these personal growth and personal development authors. And so I was really immersed in that world when I then discovered yoga. And the combination was just, oh my goodness, I finally found a sense of personal empowerment, that I was not my anxiety. My anxiety was just one dimension of me. And from that place, I really dove into mental wellness. And I'm so grateful to now be in a place where I've created this global platform that's online that not only serves the yoga and the wellness space, but specifically mental wellness. And so that's how I came to be so focused on this, is because, 1 in 4 people any given year will be suffering from one mental illness or another mental health related challenge. So it's so important that we all focus on our mental health, not just because in and of itself, that factors into our quality of life and our ability to find joy and fulfillment and purpose in what we do, but it also allows us to better show up for our community, our family, our communities at large, which is so important now more than ever, right? So, there you go. That was a long-winded response, but clearly it's an important topic that needs to be discussed. So thank you for asking.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like a very, very big part of mental health, mental wellness is also like the way we're talking to ourselves. And in your second book, A Year of Self-Motivation, you also talked and wrote a lot about like how the conversations we're having with ourselves and how important it is, what an impact it has. Do you want to share more about that?
Absolutely. Just as I said, mindset is everything. The way in which we talk to ourselves creates our mindset. One of my favorite quotes is, "The words you speak become the house you live in." Wow. And you can take that at surface level and think, "Oh, she's talking about the words I say to other people." Yeah, and that is part of it. That is part of it. But before we even get to that point, thinking about the words you say to yourself, how do you talk to yourself? How do you talk to yourself when no one's around? What's kind of your default mental script? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it empowering? Or is it deflating? And so often, unfortunately, for many of us, it's deflating. It's negative. It's self-defeating. And I'm not coming from a place of, well, my self-talk is so pure and blah, blah. No, I'm coming from the place of, I used to be so condescending to myself, critical of myself. I still am, I'll admit that. Type A. So what happens is, I can fall into this reel of perfectionism. Like, it's never good enough. It's never fast enough. It's never all these things, which has become the practice for me of being like, that's part of my anxiety. I do not have to subscribe to that. This is not true. In fact, cancel. And now I'm going to build myself up because it's so important. And that's how it begins. So for those of us who are struggling with the way that we talk to ourselves, it begins with simple awareness, pure self-awareness of just show up presently for yourself and become aware of these thoughts you're thinking. When I'm teaching yoga, I'll often kind of weave that in, like, we're in a challenging pose. Where did your mind go? Is it going to, oh my God, I can't wait for this to be over? Or, how come I'm not stronger? How come I'm not better at this pose? Or maybe even just, now I'm going to think about my grocery list and I'm going to eat for dinner after this. Whatever it is, though, whenever you notice that you're having a thought that is not serving your highest self, your highest good, become aware. Step 1. Step 2 is to flip the script. Ashton, that's not fair. You don't need to tear yourself down like that. I'm going to reframe that. I'm so proud of you. You're doing your best. And we're just going to let go of the rest. How about that? Doesn't that feel nicer than, you never get anything done quick enough, right? So we've got to flip that script. And over time now, because everything is habitual in our minds, over time, it becomes more of an automatic response of positivity and empowerment, as opposed to the automatic reaction of fear, negativity, self-doubt, self-criticism, right? So it's a work, it's an ongoing thing. I'm not sitting over here being like, and now my mind is pure and I never think any bad thoughts. But I think far less negative and self-defeating thoughts. And when I do, I typically have the wherewithal. Maybe it's right away, maybe it's 10 minutes later, maybe it's the next day. But now I at least have the wherewithal to be like, Ashton, can we reframe that? Can we empower ourselves here? So
Yeah, and what I find is also so important is that we don't judge ourselves for having these thoughts. Because I noticed myself, like once I got into personal development, or first actually through yoga, I also got more aware, and I also got into Eckhart Tolle and so on. So I got more aware of my thoughts, and I noticed, whoa, I am really mean to myself. And then I learned from others, like think like, okay, be kind to yourself and blah, blah. And every time I noticed that I'm kind of like hard on myself again, was kind of like hard on myself, that I'm hard on myself. And I like judged myself for being like this, which was also absolutely not helpful, but actually the opposite. So I find it's also like, I think everybody has it, and it's okay. And just the moment of like noticing it is a moment where we got to be proud of ourselves, and that we noticed it, and that we're changing like in a different route. And I just think this is also a very important part of this whole personal development route. It's like that it doesn't get too much into self-improvement, where even if somebody has an anxious thought or a self like discriminating thought or whatever, it's okay. And we can choose to have positive thoughts, and sometimes we have negative ones, and that's fine too.
Okay, you're just the best podcast host. I am so happy to see you in this role. Yes, I love everything that you're saying, and that's so important. You know, something that blew my mind recently was I was reading a book of my girlfriend's, and it's called 21 Days to Feeling Gorgeous, and it's loving the skin you're in. So it's all about just self-acceptance, self-love. And she was sharing a story about how one day she was driving in the car with her friend going to yoga, and she was complaining to her friend about her thighs. And she was just getting down on herself. She was hating her body, not loving and accepting herself. And her friend turned to her and said, "Stop talking about my friend that way." And I loved that story because her friend did her the biggest favor she could have possibly done in that moment, which was to say, I'm not going to sit here and stand for this, excuse my French, bullshit conversation right now that you're having about yourself. I will not. Do not talk to my friend that way. Well, what I loved about that so much, I've used that on a couple of my friends. So when my friends or my mom will say something self-defeating, I'll say, "Mom, don't talk about my mom that way." And she's like, "Oh, well, okay. I guess I can't say anything to that."
That's beautiful.
Isn't that cute? But also to turn that in on ourselves. So the way, Hannah, that you were so impactfully sharing how you used to just really get down on yourself. And when you realized that, you were like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm being so mean to myself." So I ask you this, friends, if you're not talking well to yourself, is that how you would treat your best friend? Would you ever talk that way to your best friend, to your child, to your mother, to, your favorite person? I don't think you would.
Exactly.
So it's really, to me, I have always been the one that's like, "No, I'm the strong friend. I'm fine. How are you?" And I've always been the one to just be so concerned for everyone else and neglecting myself in the process, but then wondering why, when I'm crumpled up in the corner, which may or may not be an exaggeration based on the day, do I have nothing left to give? Do I feel entirely burnt out, overwhelmed, exhausted, depleted? It's because we are batteries, right? We only have as much energy or charge to give as we are giving ourselves. It's that proverbial, you got to put your mask on first before you can help others with theirs on the airplane. So it's so important, like you said, Hannah, and having that self-compassion is key, because otherwise we're just going to keep spinning our wheels and be stuck on this karmic cycle of self-loathing. And so part of the practice is that radical self-acceptance, the radical self-acceptance that you are human, and that is beautiful. And because you are human, guess what? You're not perfect. Dang it. But that's okay. None of us are. And so we're in this together. And through that lens, we can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to fall down. But when I do, I'm going to get back up. Okay. And we're going to make a pact that when you fall down, you get back up too. And that when you're having a harder time getting back up, I'm going to be there to remind you that you can do it. And that's the beauty of, self-growth of staying positive, of being so aware of our mindset and our thoughts, because not only are we benefiting ourselves, but we're also now leading by example, giving other people permission to do the same. And that's how we change the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen. You had hit so many points, especially the point of self-care, which is something, to be honest, that I really, really, really had to learn, because I know you're a business owner, and as an entrepreneur, it's kind of like, especially in our nowadays society, you should be hustling 24/7 and working all the time. And I would just like to know your point of view of taking a break and kind of like stepping back and self-care, allowing yourself to fill your batteries and then going out and changing the world.
Yeah, because you know what I tried to do was the reverse order, and that didn't work. That just
Same here.
Right? Well, so for our listeners, here's what's really interesting, everyone. Hannah and I have been walking a very similar path for the last, how many years, babe? 4? 3?
For me, yes. 2018 is when we founded Yoga Junkies.
Oh, that's so exciting. My gosh, suddenly you've been in it a while, babe.
I know.
Yeah, well, congrats, because you know what? For all of us out there, especially entrepreneurs, it's so important to celebrate your successes. And that's a huge success. 4 years in it. So, good for you.
Thank you.
And so we walk similar paths in creating our companies. I created mine in 2015, so I had been in it for about 3 years when you started. And I'll tell you what, by 2018, I was so burnt out. I was burning the wick at both ends. I was, I'll be honest with you too, that while I look back now and I would have changed some things, other things were simply what was needed from me to, build my company, to do what I had to do. Because when you do create a company or start a new venture, whatever it is, it does require sacrifice, So I always want to be realistic first, that I didn't just magically create this giant website and platform. It took years and years and so many sacrifices and a ton of hard work and so many failures and people telling me no, and me just saying, okay, that's a setback, but it's not a shutdown. I'm going to keep moving forward. But during that time, one of the biggest lessons I've learned personally and as a leader in the wellness space is the importance of self-care. And not just the importance of self-care, but the importance of making self-care non-negotiable. Because what happened in the beginning was I was willing to not negotiate on the sacrifices I needed to make for my company, right? So I would work my 12-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week. I would decline family and friend invites. I would, work all these side jobs to make money to continue to fund my company that I was building from the ground up. Yet I would never say with equal importance, okay, I need to take a day off for my mental health. I need to take a day off because I'm feeling completely spent. And I ran myself straight into the ground. And I finally hit complete rock bottom where my mind, my body, everything was like, we are not asking anymore. Now we're telling you that you are going to stop, and we're going to stop you dead in your tracks because you can't, it's not sustainable. And also it was beginning to become a disservice because I can't authentically preach and teach the importance of self-care, soul care, having these non-negotiable boundaries, when I'm not following through, taking my own advice, So needless to say, it took me hitting mental health rock bottom to finally step back and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take the weekends off. I'm going to indulge in a nice long morning routine because that's what I need to set my day up for success. I'm going to also put my phone down after dinner and not look at it until the morning. And hey, bonus points, I'm going to put on airplane mode too. Because we need to have these boundaries, whatever that is for you, because it's also important to acknowledge that when we talk about self-care, we're not talking about getting a manicure or taking a bath. These are nice things to do. I love getting my nails done. It makes me feel sexy. So, hey, that's what I do, right? I love a good bath. I took one last night. Amazing. But what I'm talking about for self-care is soul care, is the things that we can do to fill ourselves up. We've been exchanging the battery analogy, right? So the things we can do to recharge our spiritual battery, our mental battery, our physical battery, our emotional battery. For me, it's the simplest things. It's getting out in nature. It's putting my feet on the earth. You know, it's letting myself sit in the sun for 5 minutes. Hannah knows I'm obsessed with my dogs and I love to go hiking. So I'll cuddle one of my dogs. I'll take them on a nice long hike. You know, it's things like that. Because the other thing is that sometimes when we hear about self-care or what to do when we're feeling overwhelmed, it feels inaccessible. It feels like it's privileged for a select few. Self-care doesn't need to cost a lot of money or any money at all. It doesn't need to look like someone else's form of self-care. It should absolutely fit the individual. For all my single moms out there, working several jobs just to make ends meet and holding it down with your multiple children, your self-care is going to look different than other people's, and that's okay. But the point is you still make it work for you. You find what works, you find what fills you up, and you make that a non-negotiable, and you schedule it into your day like you would a doctor's appointment or an important meeting, right? And so when we are able to do this for ourselves, we are able to then better show up for everything that we have in our lives. It's so important. I just can't stress it enough. And Hannah, I would love to hear about your, personal practice, if you would give us a little insight, because you are thriving these days, and I'm so happy to see it.
For me, it's actually exactly the same things. Like nature is a big, big one. Then time with my family. This is a non-negotiable, especially I have a baby niece right now and I love her to death. And no matter what, once a week, I'm going to see her and spend time with her because I really want to be an aunt that's close to her. So this is a thing. Also, like I take the weekends or whenever I want to, I take social media time off. I do what fills my soul. I need to move my body every day and do that without anything on. I listen to my podcast and then I have my phone on flight mode and also my phone at like 8 in the evening or something. You can't get a hold of me anymore. Even my employees know this. I think there's something. I have my WhatsApp, like my notifications, everything off. So they sometimes have to call Tyler and then be like, can we talk to Hannah? Or like Hannah's not responding or something.
And Tyler's like, no, she's not available.
No, actually, he's available 24/7. So he's like, yes, of course.
Oh,
no, he's been amazing.
Good.
But yeah, it's really exactly these things that I prioritize these and that I allowed myself. Like we also, like I did never take weekends off or something. Or if so, just like to see my girls or to see my friends and so on, but to take a day off for me to just like do basically nothing and read and so on. I never my self-worth was so linked with being productive. And to be honest, I still deal with guilt when I just chill. Like I literally have to remind myself, you need that. This is good that you're doing this right now because still, I don't know. How do you deal with that? Do you have that too?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, Hannah, we got to go here because it's so important. Oh yeah. Guilt is huge. I'm so glad you brought this up. I feel like this is especially the case for women, not to generalize, but typically what happens in our society is that this female role we take on, there's this expectation of we are the nurturers, you know, we take care of everyone and everything, and talk about no pressure, right? Excuse me. I have allergy season here in the desert. Woo!
Oh, I feel you.
Yeah, you
Same
too.
here.
And so, excuse me. I'm like, let me clear my throat here. So what happens is we've become so conditioned, right? We're expected to constantly be on, to be taking care of everyone else, no problem. To on top of that, be holding down a job or running a business, whatever, no problem. And so what happens is when we do finally take time to rest, we become inundated with these feelings of guilt or shame or remorse or inadequacy or whatever it is. And yes, I have felt them all pretty much religiously, even since I was young. I remember even being in 8th grade, and I would get home from school and I would sit my butt down on the living room floor and I would not allow myself to get up until I had finished all my homework. So even at a very young age, I was like, nope, I will not. I'm hungry. I don't care. I will eat when my homework's done. I will get it, like very like strict regimented. And I bring that up because I feel like that's kind of the mental regiment that a lot of us put ourselves to, right? Like, oh no, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I hear people say that. And I'm like, please, please don't. Please sleep now. There's a lot that goes into that. So long story short, yes, as women in particular, but all of us, we have this issue of when it comes time for ourselves to fill our cups, it can begin to feel like, is this frivolous? Is this self-indulgent? Is this selfish? Should I be taking the time? But what that really means is, are you questioning your own worthiness of taking the time for rest? Are you guilting yourself out of self-care? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. But it's true. And we all come up against some of these mental traps. So that kind of does come back to what we were talking about earlier, when you have a negative thought, right? And you just become aware. So this is the same thing. When you think about taking that time for yourself and then you notice this guilt creeping in, this doubt creeping in, that's okay. Sit with that, but just be the curious observer, right? Oh, that's interesting. I feel that way. I wonder why. Okay. Well, how about, do I need to feel that way? Is that serving my best interest now? Yesterday, Hannah, this is funny. This is good timing to bring this up. I was on day 2 of having my neck frozen. I woke up Monday morning and I could tell I had been sleeping on my neck weird when I woke up, and it hurt so bad. Like, this is normal mobility. And then I can still only turn it to here on this side. So I was like, what is going on? So I thought, hopefully I'll go to bed tonight. I'll wake up. It'll be better. I woke up yesterday. It was still very, very stiff. So I called my massage therapist, and I happened to be able to get in that afternoon. It was in the middle of my workday, and I'm in the middle of a very busy work week. And it was like this test, right? And I went, of course. It ended up being the best massage of my life, no exaggeration. It helped immensely. I was able to get great sleep last night. I can tell it's much better today. The point is, I was driving home thinking to myself, Ashton, I am so proud of you, because 2 years ago, you never, ever would have done that. You would have said, I'll get through it, with a stiff neck, like it's fine. I never would have allowed myself to take that time away, to spend the money, to prioritize my needs. And that's what I said. I said, oh my gosh, I'm looking back now on myself 2 years ago and thinking, I'm so sorry 2 years ago, Ashton, that I was basically saying to you, your health and your well-being is not worth your time, your energy, or your money. That's sad. But that's okay, because I'm not there anymore. And I went through it, and now I'm able to share that. And hopefully it, rings true for one person who's like, ooh, uh-oh, that's been me as well. And Hannah, if I may, before we went on camera, we were having a little conversation, and I was just catching up with my girlfriend and seeing how she was doing. And I would love to, if you would be willing to share a little bit about your journey and what brought you to this point of creating a whole podcast about personal development and self-care.
Oh, yeah. Well, through yoga, actually, I learned, I think mindfulness was the start of it all, because I was never aware of all the mean thoughts I had. I was deeply convinced of that I wasn't good enough, that I think I probably compared myself to others. I tried to, what Rich Roll always calls it, a recovering people pleaser. I love that word so much because it's literally like I tried to make everybody happy. And I had so many friends, or still have so many friends, and my family and great colleagues and so on. And I just wanted to make everybody happy. And what ended up is that everybody else was happy, or sometimes not even, because sometimes even if you try, you don't make the others happy. That's actually also a lesson. But the person that was definitely not happy was myself. And that was for me kind of like the start of like getting in touch with yoga. And I just knew, okay, that path that I'm going, like the job, I used to work with like the biggest brands in the world and so on. And it was not, it doesn't align with my values, you know, they are destroying the world. I actually, my values are to make the world a better place. So I literally just jumped and quit my job and went to India, did a yoga teacher education, not because I wanted to be a yoga teacher, but it was kind of like I wanted to understand yoga since it changed so much for me. Yeah. And during that time, I also found personal development. And I literally like, it was like an awakening for me. It was literally, I discovered so many patterns that I have that did not do me good at all. Mm-hmm. And I so discovered that I'm not living my authentic self and that I kind of like had a mask on without even noticing it. Right. And that I, for example, I always used to show myself as just happy. And I really had a hard time also telling myself like, I'm sad right now. Yeah. And it was like really because I kind of linked sadness with weakness. Oh, vulnerability, all of it. I used to have this. I grew up with a single mother and she's like so strong and such a powerhouse. And somehow like this, I thought like I adopted that too. And I thought like if I'm crying or if I'm sad, I'm weak. So like I had so many learnings throughout that time and I did so much inner child healing and I literally like, I changed so much and mostly myself. And I learned a lot through podcasts and YouTube videos and like big people such as Tony Robbins and in the German world with somebody who's called Laura Melina Seiler. She's also doing amazing online courses and I read so many books and I just feel like I want that what they helped me to find my true self and to find my purpose and my calling and my way that I'm still on. It's an ongoing process. But I want... Yeah, absolutely. I think it's still for all the big people that we admire. Also, they say it. I think it's like literally, even my grandma still says it. So,
yeah, I think it's important to be weary of anyone who says otherwise. The person who's like, nope, I've got it all figured out. I'm enlightened. Follow me. That is not your guru. No, don't follow that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, my deep, deep desire with this podcast and everything I'm doing is to kind of give the same to other people and to tell, like, show people with talking to people like you that you don't have to live the life that kind of like society, like lots of people think like you need to have like the external success. You got to get a lawyer, medicine, whatever. But then actually your heart wants you to work with horses or whatever. Like follow that path, you know? This is it's as like worthy and as pursuing as, because in the end, somebody who's not a lawyer or an accountant or whatever from the heart will end up unhappy versus like somebody who loves to work with animals, somebody who wants to travel the world in a trailer, whatever it is. But to follow what our heart desires just gives us so much joy. And I just want to encourage people to do that more.
I love that. And thank you for doing exactly that. You're amazing. And look at you doing the damn thing, girlfriend.
It's been a long journey. And I was so afraid, if I'm honest, to put myself out there and to start that because literally whatever you start at the beginning, you suck or you're maybe not that good. You know, it's like comparing your chapter 1 with somebody else's chapter 40. And that just doesn't work out. But you see all the other people like doing this since like 5-10 years. And you think like, oh my gosh, I can't do it like this and so on. But the thing is, what like I told myself to start is like, I do need that practice to finally be at the point that these people are, the people that I admire. And it's literally, I feel like once we start to pursue our dreams and goals, like there's just magic happening. And then things just come into your life. And it's like, as if you show the universe like, okay, I'm ready.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because everything we do is sending the message to the universe, to ourselves, to everyone else. It's just a matter of, are you being aware of it or not? And so, you know, when I was sharing about myself a couple years ago and how I would have never allowed myself to go get the emergency massage when I so badly needed it, what was I telling the universe? I'm not worthy. So, everything we do is a statement made loud and clear to ourselves, to the universe, to our subconscious minds, all of it. And that's why, as these conscious creators, it's so important to be very aware and mindful, as you said, of the thoughts we are thinking, the voice that we are speaking to ourselves with, all of it. And Hannah, what you do so well is you so vulnerably and authentically share your experiences and your challenges and what you've gone through, because thank you for doing that, because it's so inspiring. And when you show up so real like this for your listeners and for the community, it shows everyone like, wow, she's human. Because here's what's happening. Just as you're looking up to all these people, Tony Robbins, Dr. Wayne Dyer, that are doing all these amazing things, people are looking up to you too. And so when they're hearing you share what you've gone through and what led you to this point, they're going, oh my goodness, I so relate to that. And that's so powerful. And that's why it's so important for all of us to be really open and honest with where we're at in our journeys, and to share from that place of vulnerability, because all we're doing is giving others permission to do the same and being mirrors for other people to realize, oh my gosh, that's what I'm going through, or I totally relate to that, and I'm on one, but you mentioned the tying of your self-worth to your productivity, to what you were getting done. And I think that is so important to touch on, because in, this Western society that praises and really glorifies the masculine, the doing, the action, all of these things, what happens is we brush up against this hustle mentality and the glorification of being busy. And I fell into that trap too when I was going through the period I was telling you all about, when I was working all the time and total burnout. The way I justified it was glorifying it. So I was like an addict. And I was like, no, I have to work more. But you know what? It's good because I'm busy. And you know what? If I'm busy, that means I'm doing it right, right? And that's not the case at all. And in fact, what's so important, and something that I was working on and really meditating on a lot recently, is being comfortable in the being, right? Like the masculine is doing, go, do, action. The feminine, which we all possess, masculine and feminine, is the being, the softness, the release. And when I say we all possess both, it's because it's the yin yang duality. It's the white and black. It's the dark, the light. It's the good, the bad. You can't have one without the other. You can't have the masculine energy without the feminine, and vice versa. But when we're focusing on one so much that we're kind of disregarding the other, that's when you fall into this trap. So I've been thinking a lot about the power of self-soothing through stillness, which sounds daunting, and it can be, because for many of us, we're afraid to be alone. We're afraid to be alone with ourselves, with our thoughts, with what might come up. But the only way out is through. And so when we are able to do that, to show up for ourselves with, meditation, journaling, going out for a walk by ourselves in nature, prayer, whatever it is for you, this is when we can connect to that inner self, that inner knowingness, and really check in with, where are we at? Where are we feeling depleted? What do we need? So being okay with the silence, being okay with the stillness, is not just that introspection, but also, like we were talking about, that ability to give ourselves permission to not be on all the time, to not be doing all the time, to not be checking things off the to-do list, because I believe in relaxing as hard as I work. And I work really hard, y'all. So that gives you an indication of how well I can relax. Oh, I can get my relaxation on just fine these days. I'm proud of it too.
That's awesome. My dad is my absolute role model for relaxation.
Yeah.
My brother used to be little, and he, the Pokemons, he used to be a big fan. And there's this one, like, rather chubby one, which is called Relaxo. And this is still nowadays like a family gag, that whenever my dad is chilling, like, Relaxo mode is on and so on. And I admire this so. And sometimes I'm like telling this myself when the guilt starts to creep in. I'm like, no, it's Relaxo mode.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Look at Pokemon, just leading by example.
Exactly.
Good job, Pokemon.
And I also wanted to say something regarding the female and the masculine, because I thought this already before. Or I don't know, for me, I noticed myself always when I feel like I'm busy and in this masculine energy, I'm getting closer to my dreams and goals and so on. But the thing is actually, since the law of attraction and manifesting, all these things like are nowadays kind of like in everybody's mouth, but those things are based on somebody's energy, and it's about receiving, and that is the female. And this is still something that is in this masculine hustle mind, like sometimes feels impossible, that actually the goal or the key to the dreams and the goals or whatever we have is actually allowing the female to come in, allowing to receive, allowing, like through self-care, for example, our vibration is higher, and therefore we attract way better things. And I feel like this should be way more, like people need to get more aware of this, because I feel then it might also, like that was what helped me a little bit to like, okay, actually if I take a break, it's not only good because I need it right now, but also in the long term, it brings me to where I want to be in all aspects of my life.
Yes, it's like a banking account, right? It's like your savings.
Exactly. Yes.
And every time you take that day off, or you carve out time for your relaxation, you're just depositing right into that savings account, babe. And likewise, every time that we choose not to, we're withdrawing. Yes. And let me tell you what, a couple years ago when I had that crash and burn, that bank account was overdrawn and it was about to get closed down. I'm like, how far can I take this bank analogy? But it was to that point. Like I was in the red and I had to build up that account. So now my bank account overfloweth.
Good. But I feel you. It was exactly the same for me. And the thing is, in the long term, like this whole repairing and rebuilding actually takes you way longer than if you would already eventually have taken breaks and so on. So therefore, this is, I don't know, I feel like this is just a basic foundation principle to success, or to have a successful life in all aspects, to really take care of ourselves, slow down, and to do what makes us happy in all aspects.
I think that's so important, for our mental health in particular, but also, honestly, with the state of the world, if there's one thing we're being reminded of is we are not guaranteed tomorrow. Life is precious and life can be fleeting, and not to be like doom and gloom, but more of like what are you waiting for? Please do not wait to live. Like we all need to be living our lives to the fullest, but through the lens of taking care of ourselves to the fullest, so that we can show up and make a difference in the state of the world right now. Right? I mean, that's so key. And with everything going on right now, the war in Ukraine, it's been really challenging to sit with, okay, how to best show up for my community, for the world, for myself, when everything is so heavy. And it's a lot of self-care, which is also hard to talk about, because at first it's like, are you serious? People are being killed and we're talking about self-care. But when things are so heavy because of that reality of the situation, it's so important to fortify ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that we can be allies, so that we can show up and be of support and help however it is we can, in whatever form it is that we are able to do so. And so it's, it's more important than ever. And in these times, I feel like it's also easy to feel otherwise. And that's why it's important to be clear on exactly what taking care of yourself means and yields.
I agree 100%. And another thing that is, in my mind, very, very big regarding self-care is creating boundaries. And that was also a very, very big learning for me. Do you have any kind of like tips for somebody who's listening to like how to create healthy boundaries, and then also without the feeling of feeling guilty or something? If, for example, somebody says no to somebody, no, sorry, I don't have time, or no, that's not for me.
Yeah, you hit on it. As soon as you said boundaries, I was going to immediately take it to one of my favorite concepts, which is exercising your no muscle. Yeah. So I mentioned Alanya Van Zant. She's one of my favorite personal development authors of all time. Her term that she coined is your no muscle. You got to exercise your no muscle. And that is the ability to say no to things that aren't serving you, exactly like you said. Whether it's an invitation to a social get-together and you are just spent and you just need time to rest. Whether it is an opportunity, a different job, whatever, but it's not in alignment with your values. Whatever it is, creating boundaries is so healthy. These are called non-negotiables. Hannah does not negotiate with the non-negotiable that she puts her phone on airplane mode at night. Good for us. We both do that. I love that. So the no muscle is the same exact way. No, actually, that time does not work for me. I don't accept phone calls after 6 p.m. Because the other part of exercising your no muscle is also removing the impulse or the need to say you're sorry. I am so sorry, but I cannot make that event. No. Stand in your no. There does not need to be an apology. An unapologetic no draws unnecessary boundary around your self-worth. No, I do not have the time. Thank you so much, but I'm going to have to decline. This is so key because what you're stating is like how I love this central theme of what are we telling the universe? What are we telling our peers? What are we telling ourselves? So when you say like just listen and tell me what feels better to you. Oh my God, Hannah, I am so sorry and I just feel so terrible. I'm the worst. But no, I can't make it. Oh, don't hate me. Okay, ew. Versus thank you so much for the invitation, Hannah. I am not able to make it at this time. I hope that we can make something work in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Second. Like the first one, you make yourself small. And that's exactly the energy that you're in.
Yes. Women, ladies in particular, again, I'm calling us out lovingly. We need to stop apologizing. We need an unapologetic hell to the no. Because you're worth it. If you do not want to, you don't need to explain why. You don't have to apologize. You need to lead by example and give other people permission to also offer the unapologetic and empowered no. So that is a very important boundary. Other boundaries are just around your self-care, right? So for me and for Hannah, we know that our evenings need to be sacred. They need to be peaceful and quiet and unplugged from technology because we work so much online. So the boundary would be not accepting a phone call, not accepting a late night meeting, not doing anything that interferes with this non-negotiable that you have set. And why do you hold yourself true to that non-negotiable? Because you know that you are worth it, that you love yourself enough to do it, and that also you know that when you do this, you're giving other people permission to do the same. I'll never forget several years ago when it was right after the 4-Hour Workweek came out, that book, that I started to see people's email signatures would have something like, it's going to take me a week to get back to you, or whatever it is that's like setting a boundary in an email. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's an area where I have zero boundaries. So I added something in my email signature. It's like, hey, I am not the person that's on my email all day, every day. So please allow me a week to reply. But it was good. It was necessary for what I needed to do to draw a boundary around. I'm not going to be chained to my email inbox so that after I get done working my 12-hour workday, I'm now going to lay in bed and respond to emails. No, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to spend some time with my husband, and I'm going to let you know that I'll get back to you within the week. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And the thing is, people call anyway. If it's really urgent, call.
They're going to call Tyler. They're going to find a way to get through to you.
Exactly. Regarding saying sorry, that is actually also such an important point because I read a few years ago somewhere, I think it was actually an Adriana Lima tweet or something like this, where she said she stopped apologizing for a month and said instead, thank you. So in your case, for example, instead of I'm so sorry that I can't make it, or I'm so sorry to reply so late, thank you for understanding that my answer took time or something. And literally, this is an ongoing practice for me. I managed this very well already written. And still, when I voiced it, it sounds so weird. Like sometimes I really, really notice I want to say, I'm sorry, or I do say it. And they're like, damn, I actually didn't want to apologize because it's so ingrained in us. And actually, the words thank you make the other person feel so much more appreciated than if you're apologizing. Like then they feel valued and appreciated. And I just felt was such a good advice or tweet actually that I really like practice every day.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you versus I'm sorry. It's so interesting. I'm sorry puts both people in an odd situation, right? Like you're apologizing for something, the other person maybe feels bad now, or maybe it feels like an excuse to them, whatever, versus thank you, which is your boundary has been established. I'm not apologizing. I am where I am, and then the other person's like, oh, I feel seen now. You're welcome. That's
exactly.
Great.
And I also started to communicate with people kind of like that I need time for myself. And like literally, I was like first kind of like afraid to communicate that. And the response I always get from people is like, oh, I understand you. I need that too. And so on. So it's literally, we're all in the same boat. And if we just communicate it better and show our vulnerability and our boundaries more, it's like actually even brings us closer because kind of also the resistance, if you feel like, oh gosh, you should have time for that person and so on, like it all goes away because we kind of feel all the same. And I just find this needs to be voiced more.
I so agree. And I think also what used to happen more, kind of like pre-COVID, right? Just to kind of give it like a time period, BC, before COVID, was there were really high expectations professionally, kind of across the board, like reply to my email, take my phone call today, blah, 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 blah. And I think it was really wrapped up in our like work culture, that hustle mentality, that go, 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 do masculine. COVID happens. Everything else happens that has unfolded in the past 2 years. And people go, oh my God, that is not like work is not my everything. This is no longer a priority. I feel like everyone kind of softened their expectations, their patience, their all the things. And I just saw this meme the other day and I was cracking up. It goes, emails now in 2022. Because, it used to be like very professional and everyone's all serious and blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, hi, yeah, my burnout's worse than it was last time we talked. I'm not going to be able to do the thing that I told you I was going to be able to do because my burnout is so bad now. And I realize that impacts your burnout more. And for that, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to focus on me because my burnout's so bad. Anyway, wishing you will get through your burnout quickly and talk soon, or maybe not. And I was just like, oh my gosh, is that not so true though? People are nowadays like, listen, man, I'm just doing my best with what I got over here. And if that's not good enough, like, I'm sorry, you're going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. We're just getting through it together, right? So, I mean, at least what's happening is we're finding this more like camaraderie, right? Like we are in this together. Hey, maybe if that email takes a week or two to get back to you, it's definitely not the end of the world. We've got bigger fish to fry here, I think my point in this is that I think everyone has found a bit more compassion, a bit more patience, a bit more flexibility through what we've all gone through these last couple years.
Absolutely. I still have so many questions.
I know.
I could talk with you forever, but I'll try to pick the most important ones, because one that is very, very close to my heart is the connection of business and spirituality. And I know that you are one person that also there's, how do you feel about it? There are people who say it cannot coexist. There are other people who say yes, it can support each other. And then there are people like Tony Robbins, I think he says even business is a spiritual game. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a big can of worms. So we can talk about it as much or as little as you'd like. So I will focus on yoga specifically for business and the spirituality, because as a yoga teacher consultant, I also speak and teach this a lot because it's one of the main questions I get asked and things that people really want to dive into. And it's because it can be challenging to walk this line of we're living in a very again, we've been talking about this whole episode, masculine driven society of do, accomplish, materialism, right? Then we're walking this spiritual side of the yogic path of remaining authentic and in honor and in integrity of the yogic path and the corresponding principles. And so oftentimes we can kind of butt up against these two divergent paths or realities and say, are they different? Are they separate? And well, if I'm walking the yogic path, how do I show up in a business sense? And it can be done. And how it all begins is getting really, really clear on your why. What is your why for doing what it is you're doing? Because as a spiritual person, whether it is yoga or not, but in any form of spirituality, you still got to pay your bills, right? You still got to make the money so you can continue doing what you love. And I think we all go through these phases, maybe when we're newer in our journey, well, we just want to give. We just want to give. We're teachers, we're light workers, we're healers, we're all these things. And that's beautiful and that's lovely. And there is a time and a place for that. But that's not the consistency, because the consistency is you're also running a business. Part of your business is the spiritual awareness that you are worth asking for what you're worth, asking for your value, of getting paid, and of making a living wage for yourself so you can enjoy your life too. Because how are you supposed to show up and be an effective healer if behind the scenes you're struggling to make ends meet and you're not able to put food on the table? So it is a fine line to walk, but it can be walked. And it's getting clear on your why, which is your mission statement. Because any business, right, we start off with our mission statement. This mission statement aligns now with our credo, which for our credo is basically our guiding foundational beliefs. What are our guiding principles and beliefs and values that we live by? So once you're really clear on those, so for an example, my credo at the top of my list is integrity. I live with and in integrity in everything that I do, business, professional, personal, my personal life. And so I always run things through this lens of integrity. Is this opportunity that I'm being presented with in integrity with my values, in integrity with my vision and where I see myself, where I'm heading? Excuse me. And so once we're clear on our why and we have our credo, like that we're kind of living by, our foundation, this allows us now to approach this intersection of business and spirituality equipped with self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-worth. And that's how we can show up and say, okay, here's how I'm going to maintain my integrity on this yogic path while also showing up in a very business and real world sense. It can be done. And I don't think it needs to be a separation of church and state. I think that together we can combine them and have it be the most potent of all, because my spirituality impacts my business. I do my business ethically with integrity. I only work with other brands that I align with, that share my values and my beliefs. That is my spirituality influencing my business decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like another thing that is that I lead my business with, which is also very linked to spirituality, is like my intuition. Mm-hmm. I make so many decisions based on my intuition and not based on the economic effect. And I feel like, for me, this feels so right to run my business that way.
Good. And you know what? That is a muscle, just like our no muscle. It's a muscle that can be strengthened, because I know probably a lot of people are going, oh my gosh, my intuition, that sounds so scary. How do I even trust that? How do I tap into it? But I love that, Hannah, because really that's just it's taking what I'm talking about. It's taking your why, your mission statement. So you know yourself, you know what it is you're doing and why behind it, with your values, your core beliefs. And then once you have those, and that's just anchored in your heart and your gut, that's when you begin to navigate from your place of intuition, because you're grounded in your knowingness already. So now when you receive that insight, you're like, oh, yep, that's in alignment. Cool, let's go. So you've sharpened that tool, or you've strengthened that muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, I feel like our business is just one of many kind of ways to like show ourselves, or kind of like our arm to like bring good into the world. And I once did a money mindset workshop, and it was kind of like a thing that really stuck with me is kind of like, the more money I make, the more impact I can make in the world. Like the more, and the more people I can reach, the more I can give to others, and so on. And I feel like this is such a beautiful approach that's sometimes missing in the spiritual world, because like money is seen like as this evil thing, but actually it's just energy. And I find it so beautiful to see it as like, okay, the more I have, the more I can give. The more I have, the more impact I can make, and the more people I can reach, and those people can reach more people. And like this, we're just literally changing the world. And yeah, I found this was such a beautiful approach too.
Yeah. And everything you're talking about, that's abundance mindset, right? That is the abundance mindset, that everything is energy, that like attracts like. It's simply a frequency that you're tapping into and saying, yes, I accept this flow of abundance because I know it's going to flow out of me and back into the world as well. I accept I am simply a conduit for abundance, as opposed to the fixed mindset, which happens often in, if you're in one extreme or the other of, I can't see out of this box. This is just where I'm at, and I don't have any money, so I can't spend any more money until I get more money. And it's this fixed mindset. And when you're in that fixed mindset, you're fixed. You're not able to view things from a different perspective. It's very limiting. And so to be able to flip that script and to come at it from the place that you just explained, that's abundance. That opens the gates, the floodgates to more abundance, like you said. So I love that. And it absolutely applies to business.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashton, I would like to take a second to acknowledge you. You are such a prime example for me of what it means, like a person who kind of personificates, I don't know if that is the right word, the Gandhi quote, be the change that you want to see in the world. And I feel like you truly, like, you live, you walk what you talk, and you are so authentic. And I find you such an inspiration. Also that you share all your vulnerability and the times when you crashed. And I would just really, really like to take the second to acknowledge you and say thank you for sharing that so authentically.
Oh, well, that was so sweet. And I just received all that love from you. Thank you, Hannah.
Good. It really, I mean it from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, well, thank you. That means so much to me. And I'm happy to, I know that part of my purpose is to share my experiences as a way to help others relate to it and learn and grow and be inspired from it. And if one person listening felt that way, then my job is done and it was all worth it. So thank you. And you as well. I mean, you've created a platform for people to show up and do precisely this. And it's beautiful to see and to be a part of. I'm honored.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to ask you my last question, which is, I'm giving you the magic ability to turn back the hands of time. And you can travel to your 18-year-old self. And you're allowed to share 3 wisdoms with her. What would you say?
Ooh, Hannah, just saving the fire for last. I love it.
Absolutely. I found this so good. This question is literally...
Oh, I love that question. Well, earlier when you said that you've done a lot of inner child work, I have dabbled in it, and it always gets back to me kind of addressing myself at that age, which is so funny because that was a very interesting time in my life. So I would tell that young woman, I would tell her that I would speak to her like, oh, Ashton, you have come so far. You have been through so much at such a young age. And I am so proud of you for just doing your best, and just know that your best is enough and that everything you do is fine. You don't need to beat yourself up about it. You don't need to sit there and overthink it to death. Just live, girlfriend. Just live and enjoy and be present. That would be one. The next would be to stop being so mean to myself and my thoughts and what I was telling myself, and to stop beating myself up and tearing myself apart, because if it were anyone else doing that, I'd go back and I'd beat them up myself, because that's not cool to do that to little 18-year-old me. So that's that one. And then Number 3 is to fully just continue what I did have back then, which was fully believing in myself and just being like, yes, you can be on Oprah one day. You can publish a book one day. So haven't gotten on Oprah yet, but I have published 2 books. So
2 books. So
So, that final one would be to just keep believing in yourself, keep that mentality that anything is possible, that you can accomplish what you want in life, because it's so true, and it's even more true than you ever knew back then.
absolutely. Wow. Beautiful. Ashton, thank you so much. Please share with us where we can find you if we want to learn more about you.
Yes. Community is everything to me. So please reach out and connect. My website is yogiapproved.com. You can practice with me on Yogi Approved classes, and you can do it for 2 weeks free. We offer a free trial. Check us out. And then you can connect with me personally on Instagram and TikTok. I am Ashton August is my name there. And my website is ashtonaugust.com.
I will link everything in the show notes. And Ashton, thank you so much. It was literally such a beautiful conversation and full of inspiration and love. And I'm just so blessed to have you here. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Hannah. Like I said, you're an incredible podcast host. I had the best conversation, and I don't know about you, but I would be so open to a part 2 with you, because this was just too good.
Let's do it. Oh my
Awesome.
God.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, babe.
Now, I would like to hear from you. What was the one thing that you learned, and how can you put it into action starting now? Leave a comment below or hop over to Instagram at Empowering Vibez and leave a comment on today's episode. I hope this served you. Thank you so much for watching, and never forget to shine your light.